back years ago. I mean, there are plenty of posts. There are posts from Mr. Tufano while he was a board member. Yes, so
like I said, it cannot be a one-way street on this board. Everybody should be held to the same standard.
well, and that's exactly what I think.
Well, it's convenient. It's convenient not to go backwards.
Well, I don't
just go forward.
I think we need to go forward from here. I think this is look, we have a petition with a lot of names on it.
Can I say something?
Let me just finish. And so I think it's important for us to learn from this and move on. And maybe we won't ever have to deal with this again. And maybe we can start coming together. All right, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I mean, we got this petition with a lot of people's signatures, and I understand that some of those signatures were not from Monroe,
Yes.
but people were very upset by this. And Peter said he has apologized, but I think he needs to apologize to the people who have signed this because they were the ones who are upset by this. You know, we're the example for our children, and, you know, we need to acknowledge our mistakes, and there's no failing in apologizing for a mistake. It really makes you a better human being. And I feel like, you know, the reaction we got from these students to these comments, I just feel like they deserve an apology for all the one who signed the signatures, because they're leading this cause. And I think they deserve an apology from you, Peter. Thank you.
Well, they weren't students, Jill. They were alumni, college students who engaged in adult conversation and didn't like the answers that I gave them. One of them who started the petition was online calling prominent members of this community, mothers, wives, fathers, hardworking people, racists, because they didn't agree with her view. And she was thrown off of the page for it. So when she was thrown off the page for it, she went on to Twitter and started this petition because she was angry that I told her that calling people from the community who are not racist is wrong. And that hurt her feelings. And I will not apologize again for stuff that I apologized for 3 years ago. Every single one in her petition that we're speaking of, every single one of her screenshots was from 3 years ago when I was not a board member. And I apologized for them then.
Jill, let me finish.
I understand that, but that still reflects on you today. And now you're elected official. Okay. And we are held, we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And so even though
Jill, I'm sorry, please, if you're going to ask a question, please wait for me to call on you just to keep some order. All right, Jill, I'm sorry, you can finish. I didn't mean to interrupt.
So what you said 3 years ago reflects on you today. And a lot of those signatures were from students who are still in the school system. So she may have started it as a former student, and you may not like what she did, but there are other students, current students, who have seen it, and it reflects, even though it happened 3 years ago, it reflects on you today. And I think those students need to see an apology, because they're the ones that were leading, and they're the ones who look to us as leaders, as members of the Board of Education.
Okay. Adi, did you have your hand up before?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I agree with Michelle and Ken, but there's been other instances, and you can't just pick and choose who you guys want to crucify in public. I mean, what about when Mr. Gorski called somebody a piece of shit in the public? I mean, come on. What about board members attack somebody? Oh, I'm not done. Don't
beg your pardon, Mr. Ryback. This gentleman is again violating my rights as an employee here. That incident he's referring to has never been investigated and never happened.
Okay.
Let's focus.
Bring up my name again, sir, and I'm going to be at the county office filing charges tomorrow.
No problem. There's other board members that have attacked people from the public with their kids there. Nothing happened. So again, I listen, I agree with what happened. I agree with Michelle and Ken, but you can't just crucify whoever you want right now. You can't pick and choose. So
we didn't start the petition either. And
listen, 95% of the petition was signed out of state, or not even people living in Monroe. I saw the petition.
All right, I saw it also, I didn't count it, but let's move on.
Mr. Ryback?
One sec, Mrs. Kalapanovich is waiting, and then Ken, I'll.
Yeah.
Kathy?
So if the petition wasn't created, we probably wouldn't be doing this at all. So I do have a statement that I want to make, because there are people who contacted the Board of Education hoping that we would take some kind of an action. And Mr. Ryback said at the last meeting, no, he can't comment. So elected officials are held to a higher standard than members of the public. Unfortunately, they are expected to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner at all times, maintain decorum, and set an example for others. The responsibility of Board of Education members is even higher, as we're supposed to be role models for our children, all of our children. Fighting with others on social media, calling people names, walking out of board meetings when you're unhappy with a decision is not setting an example for children. We have student members on our board, and many young people throughout the community know us and expect us to behave in an appropriate manner. A petition that had over 6,000 signatures was started by our young graduates in our community, and it says a lot about what they expect from us and how we should always conduct ourselves. We can all learn a lot from our younger generation, who has high expectation and wish to live in a world that is inclusive to all and treats everyone with dignity and respect, even when you don't agree with their viewpoints. We teach our toddlers and preschoolers coping mechanisms to help them when they are unable to deal with emotions such as anger, frustration, disappointment. We tell them to think before they speak, take a deep breath to calm down, to count to 10, to ask for help from others, to stop and think before making these choices. And the choices that they use would be their words. We also teach them to say, I'm sorry, when they have hurt others with their words or actions. But I'm sorry doesn't mean anything if there is a continuation of the bad behavior. Because of your conduct, Mr. Tufano, we have made local, state, and national news, and not in a good way. I hope that you realize how your actions, your words, and your postings affect others. What you do in your home is your own business, but what you do in public and on social media has consequences. And I'm going to end with this. A tongue has no bones, but it is strong enough to hurt someone. Choose your words carefully, because words matter.
Okay. Ken, I promised you, and then I'd like to
Yes.
vote. I think we spent enough time on this.
I totally agree with you. Words do hurt. Like the words that you guys used that divine when you had an illegal meeting with the 6 of you and said things with my daughter present about me. So those words do matter, and you're right about that. And I wish you would apologize for that. Now, we want to talk about petitions, right? We had a petition to sue the state, and we had a number of signatures. That was ignored. We had a petition to save Dr. Kozak and get him a contract. Thousands of signatures. That was ignored. So and now, because it's an election year, and you're up, and Mr. Ryback is up, and your friend in public who's running around and doing all kinds of things, and I'm not going to go into that, is running. She's announced that she's running, and so now we're trying a new campaign tactic. I could tell you that I'll vote for this because I think that what was said was wrong, but you were wrong too, and you need to live up to that. So if you want apologies and you want to talk about those things, start at home. Start in your own skin. Thank you.
Mr. Chiarella, if there was
Don't be a liar again.
All right.
I will tell you, because you don't want to know the truth. And the truth is there was no illegal meeting at the Vine.
6 board members at a restaurant together discussing board business.
We were not discussing board business. We were.
All right.
Mr. Board President,
Can I ask,
Mr. Board President, can everybody get a chance to speak, please, instead of somebody monopolizing the entire time here?
Andy, go ahead. And then I want.
Now, Rupa had her hand up for like the last half an hour. You're going back to the same people, please. Let's maintain some quorum here.
Andy, go ahead.
No, Rupa.
No, let Andy go first. That's fine.
No, I really don't have much to say. I mean, it is disappointing. The only point I want to make, Peter, is this is no fun for anybody to go ahead and do this. But at the same time, there are a couple of things here. Public made a big deal out of it. And there are people who think that this board is actually pushing this under the carpet and trying to ignore it because of the responses that Steve Ryback gave. And yes, there are 6,000 petitions that have been signed. We're not, I don't think Steve's resolution, if I heard it correctly, is asking you to resign either. Am I correct, Steve?
No, absolutely.
So
No,
do you mind reading that one more time so that I better understand? I didn't know where you're going with it.
I explained why I'm doing what I'm doing. At least I believe I did.
No, what is the resolution that you put together?
I'll read it again, and then I'd like to vote on it. Right? I move Monroe Township Board of Education denounce Mr. Tufano for his social media posts that cause people emotional stress, pain, and they use vulgarity or were interpreted to be racist or misogynistic. Furthermore, the board encourages Mr. Tufano to use appropriate words in his dealings with the public as he is an elected official. Continuance of this type of crude, unacceptable behavior while serving on the Board of Education will result in filing of school ethics charters. All right.
I think the whole thing is denouncing it. I mean, we're certainly not encouraging it, so we got to denounce it. So I don't see.
Okay. Rupa, and then that's it, and we're voting.
Now, I think I was just going to echo a little bit what Andy said, but I have to say, again, listening to the community, listening to so many people out there, it took a lot of courage for those former students to come up, which I commend them for that, because I've lived with racism my entire life, from the first day I walked into first grade to this day and age in this community where there's people making racist comments to me, making racist comments to my family, making anti-Semitic comments to my family because I am in a biracial marriage. So I think racism is very important, and we have to do something to show our community that we are listening. And they brought this concern up to, and we need to move forward with the motion.
Okay. Did we have a second on this, Mr. Gorski?
Yes, Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Okay, let's vote.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Tufano.
No.
Mr. Tufano, do you want to vote no, or do you want to potentially abstain?
I want to vote no.
So noted. Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
No.
Mr. Pelori.
Yes.
Mr. Nikitinsky.
No.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion passes.
Okay.